Have you ever been right in the middle of calculating something important, and suddenly your screen just screams at you with this impossible-looking string of digits and letters? It is literally enough to make you want to throw your device across the room. Well, don't panic, because today we have a massive mathematical problem to solve. Let's say you're calculating the pixels, the color depth, and the frame rate of a 1-hour digital camera recording, and your calculator spits out this terrifying number, 1.30459, followed by an ominous E13. I mean, it looks exactly like an error code, doesn't it? So what does this actually mean? Well, by the end of this lecture, you're not only going to understand exactly how to read that E13, but you are going to master the secret mathematical grammar behind it, the rules of exponents. We're going to uncover the formulas and exactly how to apply them to real-world examples, so you never, ever get stuck again. Let's jump right in and look at where a gigantic number like that actually comes from in the real world. Think about a high-resolution digital camera. It captures 2048 by 1536 pixels. That is millions of pixels instantly. Then it calculates 48 bits of color depth per frame at a rapid 24 frames every single second. Over just a 1-hour period, which, remember, is 3,600 seconds, the amount of data multiplies exponentially. When you multiply all these distinct elements together to figure out your storage, that terrifying E13 actually just means times 10 to the 13th power. It represents roughly 1.3 times 10 to the 13th bits of data. It's just a massive amount of information condensed into one tiny, elegant little formula. Now that we get the basic idea of why these exponents matter so much, let's build up the basics of the formula, starting with multiplication. Let's make this super easy with a visual example. Suppose you have x to the third power multiplied by x to the fourth power. Instead of rote memorization, let's just visually expand this out. You have a group of 3 x's being multiplied together, and you're multiplying them by another group of 4 x's. If you literally just line them up side by side and count them out one by one, you have exactly 7 x's sitting there in a row. So it is simply x to the 7th power. And this brilliantly illustrates our first formalized law, the product rule of exponents. This rule states that for any real number a, when you're multiplying expressions with the exact same base, you simply keep that common base and add the exponents together. 3 plus 4 equals 7. It really is that straightforward. Same base, just add the little numbers on top. Okay, so here's a quick question to test your logic. If multiplying means we add the exponents, what do you think happens when we divide them? Let's take y to the 9th power divided by y to the 5th power. Just like before, let's expand it all out. If we cancel the common factors, crossing out 5y's from the top row and pairing them up to cross out 5y's from the bottom row, we are left with exactly 4y's sitting right there on top. The division just naturally eliminates those matching pairs. So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that when dividing exponential expressions with the exact same base, you just write the common base and subtract the bottom exponent from the top one. 9 minus 5 is 4. That is the quotient rule in action, and it saves you from having to write out all those variables and physically cross them out every single time. Let's make things a little more challenging. Let's see what happens when an exponential expression is raised to another power. Now wait, this is incredibly important. A really common student mistake is mixing these two concepts up, so notice how side by side they function entirely differently. With the product rule on the left, you add the exponents to get x to the 7th. But with the power rule on the right, where the entire expression of x to the 5th is squared, you actually multiply the exponents to get x to the 10th. You're taking a group of 5 and doubling that entire group. We can officially define this as the power rule. When raising a power to another power, you keep the base exactly the same and you multiply the exponents. Think of it as a much faster way of doing repeated multiplication. It's essentially scaling up an already massive number quickly and efficiently. Okay, so far so good, but now we are going to look at what happens when our rules create answers that seem, well, kind of impossible. Now you might be asking a very classic student question. Why on earth does 0 exponent equal 1? Shouldn't it just be 0? It feels like a total trick question, but let's break it down and prove it step by step like real mathematicians. We already know from basic arithmetic that any number divided by itself is 1, right? So t to the 8th divided by t to the 8th equals 1. But wait, if we apply the quotient rule we just learned to that exact same fraction, we subtract the exponents. 8 minus 8 is 0, which gives us t to the power of 0. Since both equations started with identical fractions, we mathematically prove that t to the power of 0 must equal 1. It is an inescapable logical conclusion. And this gives us the zero exponent rule, which states that any non-zero real number raised to the power of 0 is always exactly 1. 5 to the 0, it's 1. A million to the 0, 1. That terrifying digital camera number from the very beginning raised to the 0, still just 1. Similarly, let's see what happens if we subtract a larger exponent from a smaller one. Say 3 minus 5. According to our rules, we get a -2 exponent. But if we visually expand and cancel those factors out physically, crossing out 3 h's on the top and pairing them with 3 on the bottom, we are left with a 1 on top and h squared on the bottom. So you see, a negative exponent isn't actually a negative number at all. It's really just another way of writing a fraction. I like to think of the fraction bar kind of like a physical border or a wall. Moving a factor across that fraction bar, from the numerator down to the denominator or vice versa, simply flips the sign of its exponent. It's like stamping a passport to cross the border. A negative exponent on top simply means it actually belongs on the bottom as a positive. Now let's connect this to real-life algebra, where you often have to deal with multiple grouped factors all at once. Look at how elegantly this behaves when dealing with groups. Whether you have multiple items multiplied inside parentheses, like p times q, or a fraction divided inside parentheses, like e over f, the rule is exactly the same. The exponent sitting on the outside simply distributes to every single factor on the inside. The 3 hands out that power to both p and q. The 7 hands out its power to both e and f. It treats everyone inside the brackets totally fairly, acting as both a power of a product and a power of a quotient. All right, before we finish this explainer, let's quickly summarize the key mathematical grammar rules that we've demystified today. You now have the complete mathematical toolkit. Let's recap. You add exponents for products, you subtract them for quotients, you multiply a power raised to a power, you turn any base with a 0 exponent into a 1, and finally, you flip negatives across the fraction bar to make them positive. So the next time your calculator gives you an intimidating string of numbers with an E, you are going to know exactly what it means and how to conquer it. You're now completely equipped with the formulas to break down astronomical numbers into simple, logical pieces. Join us next time as we dive into radicals and rational exponents, taking this mathematical toolkit to the absolute next level.